Hello, everyone. My name is Gary Gomes. I'm going to talk to you this week about Vedic astrology. It is currently February 24th, Saturday, when I'm making this recording. And I'll be looking at the chart for the coming week and maybe a little bit beyond that as we move into March a little bit. But if you'd like to study with me or if you'd like a reading with me, my phone number is 508 525 0001. I also take students on. I can teach you about a variety of subjects, including horary astrology, that is answering questions based upon the time the question is asked. I can teach you Jaimini astrology, which is a select subsystem of Indian astrology, conventional Parashari astrology, Rigu astrology, a variety of systems which are not unknown, but I've had exposure to through the years, and I can sort of mesh them all up and keep the rules straight in my head. I'd like to have you contact me. If you wouldn't mind, if you like what I do in this particular video, you can like, subscribe, and share the video. You can also comment. Comments are more than welcome. You can give me an idea on what you'd like to see me cover over the next few months. I do owe some co-broadcasts to people who I've been working with over the past few months. It's been kind of a busy time with me for a variety of personal reasons, which I won't get into here, but I am planning on getting those people back on board again. So to those individuals, and you know who you are, my apologies, but I will get you back on again. So also, if you would like to have a discussion with me one-on-one, I might do a live stream soon, I'm not sure. But if you'd like to have a discussion with me one-on-one about astrology or astrological principles, please contact me and I'll see if I can arrange something for you to be on this particular show. I'm always interested in people who are learning or who have different perspectives on astrology or on Vedic astrology in particular, but I'm open to a lot of different systems of astrology. I think we can only benefit by increasing the knowledge base that we share. So if you do want to appear on this, I'd be more than happy to have you. Okay? All right, so don't be shy. All right, so I'm going to go to the share screen now, and we'll see what's going on with this. And I need to get out of this particular program. Going to swap it and change it to a now chart. Let me just, stop the share because it's not working. All right, now chart. And I come to you from beautiful New Bedford, Massachusetts. The original location of the story of Moby Dick. And let's see now. Also in recognition of Black History Month, this was a place where Frederick Douglass spent a certain amount of time. It's also a city that Ralph Waldo Emerson visited fairly often. So it's a pretty historically important place. So, and of course I'm here now, so that makes it triply important. So So enough of the silliness. I'm going to stop the share just to make sure that we're sharing the screen again. All right, now it looks like we're sharing, okay? And sharing is caring, as we all know. I hope I don't get sued by copyright. And look at this, we have a full moon in the chart, okay? So this is a Vedic astrology chart. Every once in a while, I like to go back over the basics and just explain how Indian astrology is different from Western. So first difference in Indian astrology is every sign goes back almost one whole sign. It's about a 24-degree difference in the zodiac use in about 95% of Indian astrology. There are some people who use a Western chart for Indian astrology, and that's fine. I just don't particularly use it, and the overwhelming majority of Indian astrologers use what's called a sidereal or a star-based chart. And what that means is essentially there's a phenomenon called the precession of the equinoxes, and that moves the reference point of the stars in the sky back a bit every 100 years or so by almost 1 degree. So essentially, if we were to look in the night sky and look for the backdrop of stars in certain constellations, they would have moved by almost one whole sign from where the tropical zodiac used in Western astrology is. Both systems are valid. I have nothing against Western astrology. I just prefer this system because personally, I think it works better. But that's my personal opinion, not everybody's. And I respect my Western astrological colleagues, but I find this system is a little bit more precise. Also, again, as I said, we have a full moon. This upper left-hand box is always Pisces. That's Aries, but that's April 15th to May 15th, roughly. That's Taurus, May 15th, June 15th. Gemini is June 15th to July 15th. Cancer, it goes on in that particular sequence. That's Leo, that's Virgo, so that's September 15th to October 15th. Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, and Aries. And you can see, although we have a full moon, and you can tell it's a full moon because the moon is exactly opposite the sun. It was just exact a few minutes ago, or maybe about half an hour to an hour ago. Basically, the full moon is also called a Purnima moon, and it's considered an extremely auspicious moon. Right now, I just moved into the dark moon period, but basically this is a really good time for finishing things up, accomplishing things. Now, this particular full moon is a little bit oppressed, and I'll explain why. So normally full moons are considered relatively lucky in Vedic astrology, but although they do have the stigma of having too much energy on the moon. That is, there's too much going on in our thought processes when the moon is full. But also what happens here, you may have noticed over the past few days, you've been obsessing or angry over things from the past, depending on your chart. That's mainly because of Saturn aspecting the moon and Mars also aspecting the moon. Okay, so every planet throws aspects 7 signs away. So Saturn and Mercury together is kind of a thought pattern. Sun and Mercury together, we're very smart, but Saturn makes us relive the past. Mars makes us angry about our thoughts. So it's been kind of a difficult time for people in terms of their temper, in terms of their um, in terms of how they confront opposition. So you see, so so you've seen, I would say, a lot of anger in politics lately. That's one of the things I talk about a lot on this particular show, and that's mainly been caused by this Mars and Venus conjunction. Mars and Mercury technically aren't in the same sign, but they're within, let's see, 15 plus 8, 23 degrees of each other. That's technically a combination for lying or misrepresentation. So, yeah, there's been a lot of misrepresentation going on over the past few months, and that'll probably continue over the next few months because Sun will be in the same sign with Rahu within about 2 weeks, and that's disruptive to government, or government may try to exert. Government right now is trying to exert more control, but they may do things more aggressively. Also, Mars is aspecting the moon. Mars Mercury conjunction indicates people lying about different aspects of their life. This is fairly typical. I hate to disillusion people who think that politicians are always honest, and even people entering the political field who aren't politicians. But most campaigns aren't based on honesty. They're really not. And I and I don't want to sound superior, but in some ways, so I won't do it this way. But I will say you haven't been paying attention if you think that one candidate is more honest than another. They're not. They're trying to make, it's a combination which is typical in lawyers and actors too, which I've said many times before. Actors try to pretend they're somebody else to convince you they're somebody else. That's usually the mark of a good actor. So if you believe they're the person they're playing when they may be a totally different individual in real life, that's a good actor. But that also involves lying or putting on a different face than you have normally. The other aspect is lawyers have to, excuse me, defend people who may have, done something wrong or been accused of doing something wrong, and they have to paint that particular person's actual deeds in the best possible light they can. So does that involve stretching the truth? I think, yeah. I think that's, so the lawyer wants to present. So if a person's done something wrong, or if they've been accused of doing something wrong, chances are nobody's totally innocent of any wrongdoing. Okay, that's just a probabilistic statement, but basically, I think it's true. And so to quote a really old, to give credit where credit is due, to quote a really old Monty Python book, everybody has probably done something they should not have done at some point in the past. Okay, so I think that one of the things that this particular season gives us, and also let's say media itself, media is ruled by Mercury, is that tendency to um, misrepresent. Also, as I've said many times before, it is my firm position that the United States is in a Rahu Mahadasha. In the United States chart, Rahu is with Mercury in the United States 8th house in the particular chart that I value. And that does give a potential for um, misrepresentation, politicalization, for advocating for positions, and deceit. Rahu can be a deceitful planet. So or a deceitful, it's technically a graha. It's so grahas are not planets, but they're entities that affect actions in the world. So essentially, this Rahu is in Pisces, which is a sign connected with freedom or liberation. So you're going to get lies about freedom or liberation or what that means. Okay. And so I, so again, this is not to come down on either party side, or any politician side, but the consequences of an election are never quite what the candidates tell us on either side, on any side. Is it's usually a bit milder than we're informed, but the main idea is, because we live in such an overstimulated world right now, we have to act like the sky is falling if one person or another wins. And that's exactly what's happening right now. So essentially, that Sun-Saturn combination. So the worst scenario is going to occur. Mercury's hemmed in between two malefic planets. It becomes a malefic planet by its very definition. So a lot of communications become, by their definition, malefic. And I think overall, if we look at the indicators in the chart, we look down here, this is using what's called the Gemini system. Jupiter's aspected by Saturn, and Mars is aspected by Saturn. So this becomes an ethical war. This becomes a war for the soul or the wisdom of the country. So that's what we're seeing right now. And again, because Jupiter's involved, it's being played out, and Venus is involved, it's being played out in the courts. It's being played out on both sides in very legalistic terminology. So the impeachment inquiry is a legal process, right? The Trump cases, we know they're all legal issues. The Biden cases all have legal ramifications connected to them. They have legal extensions connected to them. Okay, so just because it's Biden versus Trump, both candidates are embroiled in legal issues right now. The Trump activity is further along than it is, but again, we've seen what I would call a massive politicalization of courts and trials. I would say even as far back as starting largely in Watergate, but accelerating even in the Reagan years when Oliver North was called to testify before Congress, and definitely into the Clinton years when the special counsel was hired to investigate Whitewater, and he was told to find something, or he was told to stay until he found something, and he found something that he could hang his hat on. And even up into the Bush administration, and even some of the legalistic implications around Hillary Clinton and Benghazi. So this is not a new phenomenon with Trump, but it's amped up with Trump between 2016 and 2021, and it's continued into this current administration. But I think it's really all bets are off now, basically. And I think you're seeing, well, maybe not peak politicalization because everybody can always take things further, but an extraordinary example of how they're trying to use the courts to interfere um, with the people's decision on both sides, on both the Trump side, on both the Biden side, on the Democratic side, and on the Republican side. And the Democrats have essentially barred certain candidates from running in primaries, which is their right, it's their party, but it doesn't pass. It doesn't give the impression of a free and open democracy. Um, and I think we can look at Trump and say, well, he's refused to debate people, so that doesn't give the impression of a free and open democracy. It's become kind of a grudge match this year. If we're talking about, so let's get away from politics for a second. I know you'll be relieved to get away from that. The moon is in a relatively nice mansion. It's in Maga Nakshatra, so there's a lot of calling back to our ancestors, the people who come before us, and the traditions we follow. And you're going to see that interest turn into money over the next couple of days, and also dispensing of money. Now, the other thing is, one of the things you'll notice from this chart is we have Rahu in Pisces. That'll give scandals connected with water and the sea, and it'll also give some disruptions. So there's mass flooding in Florida. Mars is aspecting Jupiter. There are land scandals happening in Florida, and I'm sorry, not in Florida, in California. My apologies. And there are land scandals happening in Hawaii with people allegedly buying up large chunks of Hawaiian property that were burned in those fires a few months ago. So a lot of this is very shady from an ethical standpoint. Saturn's aspecting Jupiter. You're seeing people who have a lot of power trying to accumulate more power. I don't think we're going to see that go away anytime soon, if I'm perfectly honest, but we will get a little bit of a break from it probably in May when Jupiter enters Taurus. The other thing that I want to point out is Mars is aspecting Jupiter, so that's where the land grab stuff is coming from. Also, one of the things that I've noticed is I pay attention to Europe and Africa and Asia and South America, probably not as much as I should, but I like to think of myself as a fairly globally oriented person. Whether or not I deserve that particular reputation, I don't know, but I like to look at the entire world. I don't like to just look at the United States. I saw an interview with Poland, I think it was the Prime Minister of Poland, and he was making a statement about Poland wouldn't let in Muslim refugees, but they did let a lot of people in from the Ukraine. And he made the distinction that Poland was, he said he didn't care whether or not people call Poland racist or anything else. But if you look at different parts of the world, like France, Ireland, Italy, Germany, and just a lot of regions of the world, there's a resistance to letting in people who claim to be refugees, but we really can't ascertain the status of. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that resistance as the Saturn aspect in Jupiter. People are going to are at least currently looking at limitations on their resources, on what they can absorb, what they can handle to bring in. And it's just been a mad rush to get out of these countries, to get out of China, to get out of Syria, to get out of not Hamas, excuse me, the Gaza Strip, to get out of a lot of countries for both political, economic, and repressive reasons. And there's been a general trend in Europe turning more rightward, turning more nationalistic, for lack of a better term. I'm not arguing this is the right way to go. I'm just saying this is what's happening. And I think that's also a sign that there's Europe got hit much worse than the United States did by the sanction policies on Russia. And certain of those countries are actually hurting economically. France, in particular, is doing very badly in terms of employment. Other countries are doing very badly in Europe in terms of inflation. And China is, to a certain extent, is still on lockdown, still on economic hiatus. They can come back, but some people are predicting that China is really going to go south within about 10 years. I don't know enough about the internal mechanisms of China to agree or disagree with that. I think that's a little bit pessimistic, but I looked at their chart and they are not in a good major planetary period right now. So there's a lot of stress on the world. A lot of it's due to post-COVID. A lot of it's due to what's happening between Russia and the Ukraine. And also a lot of it's due to what's happening in South America with governments switching around, trying to pull back Argentina in particular over the past year, elected somebody who vowed to cut government spending because the government spending in Argentina is unsustainable, or the inflation rate, is unsustainable. And in Argentina, so in certain societies, those two actually have nothing to do with each other. So just to let me clarify that. Government spending does not necessarily increase inflation unless there's a scarcity of goods. It's only if there's a scarcity of goods that actually causes problems. If there's a scarcity of goods, then excessive government spending causes problems. So just to be clear about that. And I think we're seeing a lot of problems in Australia, also in New Zealand, the Philippines as well. The Philippines is going through a really tough economic cycle right now, and so essentially nobody's safe. So these are like So the United States may manage a soft landing. I don't know. We'll see what happens with the April 8th eclipse. And we have a lot of planets moving ahead into within about within about a month, we'll have a bunch of planets in Aquarius. Um, that can be very negative because we'll have, whenever you have planets clustered together too much, that causes economic stress, and you may see a collapse in the speculation on artificial intelligence. That's just my personal speculation. So Venus will be entering that sign within about 2 weeks. Mercury will still be there. Saturn will still be there. Sun will still be there. Mars within about a month. So at least you'll see Mercury move to the next sign, but it'll be a debilitated Pisces. So, and this is all leading up to a big eclipse in Aries in around April 8th. So I would expect February through April to be, March through April to be rather difficult months. Plus we have a Mercury retrograde in April as well. So I think, I don't want to panic anybody, but this is like this, and around October 2nd, when the next eclipse occurs, will occur in Virgo, will be kind of tipping points. The second eclipse next around October 2nd, this is assassination potential over here. So we'll see what happens with that assassination potential or riots. So we'll see what happens with that. But I think there's a lot to be concerned about this year. We can avoid war, I'm pretty sure, or at least World War. But again, what I would call a lot of minor outbreaks and a lot of, so Pakistan and Afghanistan are ripe for military involvement. So, and that's just from a global map. So we'll have to be careful about that. So I don't want to be pessimistic. There are also options for change. You can see some positive changes in terms of governments, but usually when governments get nationalistic, they get a little bit aggressive or defensive, and that can cause some violence too. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what plays out. But again, internationalistic, the globalization formula isn't working for a lot of people right now, because essentially what it's doing is it's making them fear for the futures of their countries. And it's mostly, despite common belief, it's mostly economic fear. It's not really, there's cultural fear, because there's a fear of criminals being allowed in with good people who are just seeking refuge. Okay, so that's and that's a possibility. I'm not saying that to be nasty about refugees. I'm saying that's a possibility. That's a very distinctive possibility, and especially with Rahu in Pisces. And you can actually see this can give a potential for more religious wars, for more religious fanaticism, more religious absolutism. Okay. So let's go on to more pleasant things. We'll look at your charts for this week, and then we'll look at the world map. It's not a cause for panic. I'm just pointing out we're having challenging times ahead of us. This year is going to be a really sensitive year. So just be cognizant of people's feelings, especially over the next couple of weeks. and over the next couple of months. It's going to be kind of like walking on eggshells. All right. So layout examples. Let's go to the Aries as the sign. So this is, I gave you the birth signs earlier on, but people with sun, moon, or rising sign in Aries should expect some good luck. Heavy expenditure pattern. We've already seen this before, but good financial growth actually this week. So that's a positive, and especially in home life. Again, a little bit overly sensitive to illnesses or enemies, some jealousy, but career-wise, they're going to do spectacularly well. Mars and Venus, but they will have to watch out for jealous coworkers, and they'll also have to watch out for heavy expenditures. But overall, a good week for Aries. Fights with spouse aren't uncommon, or partnerships aren't uncommon for the sign. For Taurus, Taurus has Venus in the Lord is Venus. Venus is in Capricorn. It gives the sign relatively good luck this week, good career life, good financial gains, but again, a tendency to overspend. So it has that in common with Aries. Home life will be nice and placid. Children will be a little bit difficult or a little bit tough to figure out. For Gemini, Gemini has the Lord of the first house is in the ninth house. So this sign's luck should improve slowly but surely this month. And you'll actually see it starting to splinter off and go off in all kinds of different directions around 3 weeks from now. But basically, luck is looking up for Gemini rising. And in terms of desires, if it wants affection or it desires affection, realize those dreams this week. K2's in the fourth house. Still some worry about emotional distrust and whether or not people, relationship partners, are true or honest with them. But there will be gain from relationships, financial gain, and Mars and Venus are in the eighth house, so they'll have to watch out for being taken advantage of by relationship partners, though, too. But this is not a bad chart for Gemini. It's better than it has been for the past few weeks, and you should see some financial growth for this sign within the next month, and actually some financial gains over the next couple of weeks. For Cancer, Cancer has Mars and Venus in the seventh house. That's an exalted Mars. Mars is in its most powerful sign. So that makes it easier to get into arguments with relationship partners. Sun, Saturn, and Mercury are in the eighth house. That's not a bad combination for research into occult subjects or into metaphysical subjects, or just research in general. The moon is the Lord of the first house and the second house. That creates a wealth combination and is aspected by the second house Lord, which increases the potential for wealth. But again, it increases the potential for expenses because of Mercury being there. K2's in the third house, so this sign will have a lot of courage this month. And we can see over here that you already spoken about this eighth house, Saturn, Sun, Mercury conjunction. Jupiter's in the 10th house, which is good for career growth, but again, slow. And Rahu is in the ninth house. So I think this will give some problems with bosses or some problems with superiors. So just be a little careful about that. For a Leo, Moon is in the first house. He gives heavy expenditure pattern, but also good potential for wealth. K2's in the second house. A lot of times this sign will not be believed by people that it's in contact with. That's going to make it a little bit difficult to understand. The sun is in the seventh house, a lot of focus on long-term relationships, along with Saturn and Mercury. So long-term relationship partners will want a lot of attention this month. Mars and Venus are in the sixth house. So again, be careful about accidents, be careful about fights with relationship partners. There's real temptation to get into that, power struggles. And Rahu's in the eighth house. So again, a lot of interest in research, a lot of interest in figuring out who's telling you the truth and who's lying to you. Jupiter's in the ninth house. I think that this particular combination does indicate generally good luck for a Leo, sun, rising, or moon. For Virgo, Virgo has K2 in the first house. That's kind of an interesting combination because K2 has moved into Hasta Nakshatra. It's moved out of Chitra Nakshatra, which had to do with problems with buildings or delays or obstructions or finding fault with buildings or issues with moving into buildings. So this should be good. It's also somewhat good for intuition. It'll give unexpected breaks or deals with software and also with creative activities. Psychics should be particularly strongly benefited from this particular placement. And Rahu's in still in Revati Nakshatra. So again, that's the point where it's going to be tough to communicate with spouses because they'll be fixated on a certain thing as opposed to willing to compromise. Let's see now. Mars and Mercury are in the fifth house. That's a good combination for this chart. It gives the third lord and the eighth lord presence in the fifth house. So any research you've done before will pay off nicely. The lord of the second house is with those two houses, and it should give you the ability to fulfill romantic interests or knowledge interests. So that's actually pretty good. Saturn, Mercury, and Sun are in the sixth house. It's kind of a difficult placement. The lord of the first is in the sixth. So there'll be a lot of focus for this sign on health and also on expenses and also on just on illness and on children. Rahu in the seventh house, you'll attract people from distant countries, both for business partnerships and for relationship life. Jupiter's in the eighth. This isn't a bad combination. Jupiter in the eighth gives a lot of, it reveals a lot of secrets about things, and that's a good placement. Moon is in the 12th house. So again, good ability to save, good judgment in terms of purchasing. Those are overall beneficial placements. For Libra, Libra has gain of money through work in this chart. Spouse will be a little bit angry. We're just coming out of a planetary war between Mars and Venus, which has been going on for the past couple of weeks, and it's a relief to see Venus finally pulling ahead of Mars, and that's a good thing. So although relationship partners will still be a little bit difficult at times, Mars, the planets are really no longer within a degree of each other. Planetary war has ended, so Venus is moving out of that particular conflict with Mars. So that's a good thing. So the Venusian aspects of life, the more artistic things connected with life, those will start to gain prominence. But the Mars influence will still be there. For Saturn, Sun, and Mercury in, let's see, sixth house, and the fifth house, excuse me. This is a good placement for financial gain, luck, and previous contacts coming back to contact you for additional advice or additional financial gain for you. Jupiter's in the seventh house. This does give good potential for new relationships, although Saturn and Mars make them a little bit difficult. Rahu's in the sixth house. The major thing I think you'll have to watch out for is for being too sneaky or too deceitful about financial matters. It's too easy. And also you'll be a little bit worried about health. So overall a relatively good week for Libra. For Scorpio, Rishika in Sanskrit. Scorpio has the first lord in the third house and one of the co-lords in the 11th house. So good for financial gains, but again, you don't trust your friends. You don't trust your siblings. And Mars and Venus are together in the third house. So this gives gain of romantic partners if you're so interested. Sun, Saturn, and Mercury are in the fourth house. Gives good potential for career growth and even financial gain for career. Rahu's in the fifth house. So children will seem to be a little bit greedy or a little bit compulsive. Jupiter's in the sixth. He'll be opposed by authority figures or by people in power. Moon is in the 10th house, so good for career growth, maybe even possible change in career. For Sagittarius has Mars and Venus in the second house. That's good for financial gain for this particular rising sign. Saturn, Sun, and Mercury are in the third house. Good for plugging ahead no matter what the odds are. Rahu is in the fourth house. This is generally good for financial breakthroughs, especially from past efforts and also from children. Seventh house lord is in the third house, so that's where I get the gain of spouse or relationship partners or business partners from. Moon is in the ninth house. This is generally a good placement. It's the lord of the eighth, so if you investigate things, you'll be able to make money from them. If you impulse buy, no, you won't. Ketu's in the 10th. Again, some ignorance or some problems with career matters, but basically this is not a bad placement. For Capricorn, Mars is exalted in the sign, so it's a good time to buy property if you're so interested in that. Venus is in the first house. That's the best possible planet for this particular rising sign. It's a good sign placement. Mars and Venus together bring good luck to this particular rising sign. It's the fourth, fifth, and 10th lord together in the first house, so that's very lucky. Saturn, Sun, and Mercury are in the second house. That's good for financial growth, although, again, slowly. We're talking about slow financial growth. And again, one of the things I didn't mention in the forecast is we're not out of the inflationary cycle just yet. The other thing is Rahu's in the third house, so this will make the sign not unafraid to pursue its financial interests. Jupiter's in the fourth house. This is generally good for education or learning. Moon is in the eighth house. Relationship partners will seem to be distant or a little bit aloof, a little bit tough to contact. Ketu's in the ninth. Good luck to your instincts and your intuition. For Aquarius has Sun, Saturn, Mercury in the first house. That's a Raj Yoga kind of a combination. I have the seventh lord in the first, the fifth lord in the first, and the first lord in the first. So that's considered pretty good. And it'll give gains from unexpected sources, people who owe you money in particular. But this sign has to be careful about being taken advantage of in relationships. Mars is aspecting the seventh house. It gives Mars affliction. Relationship partners will be difficult to please or difficult to make happy. They'll be moody, although they will gain a lot of money this month. Rahu's in the second house, again, dissatisfied with financial growth. Jupiter's in the third, a lot of desire for new financial gain. Ketu's in the eighth, a lot of interest in research. And and some potential for expenses because of Mars and Venus being in the 12th house, but also spending on property is a good thing. For Pisces, Rahu in the first house gives this sign overall dissatisfaction or confusion. Relationship life will also be confusing. A relationship partner will spend a lot of money. Jupiter, so he'll be definitely dissatisfied. He won't have enough money coming in. Although Mars and Venus in the 11th house actually do indicate a lot of financial growth. Moon is in the 6th house. That's generally good for overcoming illnesses, but people can be prone to congestion. Jupiter's placement in the 2nd house does indicate the sign will, in fact, make a lot of money this week. So let's go to the time-space change map, astro mapping relocate. All right, so we're going to go backwards and try it again. All right, so Venus, so again, Venus and Mars are in conjunction near the Hawaiian Islands, some potential for land fraud or people engaging in land grabs in Hawaii. I said that in the actual prelude to this, but that's the astrocartography actually backs it up. Some lying from the government about this, some misrepresentation from the government about this, and also some land grabs or some land disputes in Western Canada around here, and even in Alaska, parts of Alaska. If we go down here, we see a Rahu line going through Washington State, Oregon, California, and even into Nevada. So there'll be some governmental scandals going on in those particular states, some dissatisfaction, and this will extend pretty much to throughout the western states, over Montana, into Nevada, and down as far as Texas and into Mexico. So there'll be panic, a lot of concern over immigration, a lot of concern over changes in lifestyles, even government scandals in this region of the country. The next Mars-Venus line we see is over, and again, Rahu does indicate flooding, which I said before, over this part of the world. There's a Mars-Venus line going through Central America right now, so this gives some fighting over land, some fighting over wealth, and it's not really touching Argentina, but Argentina is being touched by a Mercury Sun Saturn line. Sorry, Guyana, sorry, Colombia, sorry, Venezuela, sorry, Brazil, Bolivia, Uruguay, down into Paraguay. So all those countries, Argentina, will be having financial issues. The economies will not look good for these countries right now. Let's see now. If we go over to, there's a Rahu line going over the Azores and over the, I believe it's the Canaries or the Madeiras. I can't remember which those are. My apologies. I think those are the Canary Islands or Cape Verde. And Jupiter's, and we have a Rahu line. So this will give governmental scandals in West Africa, near Ghana, near the Ivory Coast, near Morocco, and also in Spain, England, Jupiter, and France. I'm sorry, Spain, English, Spain, England, Portugal, and France. My God, and Ireland as well. There's a Mercury line running through Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, and there's a whole convergence of lines happening here over Germany, Greece, close to Turkey, not quite there, and over Egypt, Algeria, Sudan, not really involving Yemen, but all the way down to South Africa. And this should give some political intrigue in those countries. So maybe government and media misrepresenting events. That's always possible. We have no lines near Israel or Ukraine right now, but we do have a Rahu line and a Saturn line encompassing them. So this entire part of the world is a little bit sad right now, a little bit fearful of the future. So the lines don't have to fall right on a country to affect them. This is like being surrounded by malefics in a Vedic chart. The countries that will have a lot of direct panic, though, are Afghanistan and down into Pakistan, and maybe a little bit over into India. And you see a Mars-Venus line, so there'll be property disputes in Bangladesh, Thailand, and all the way up through Laos and in through China and up through Mongolia. We have these large Mercury, Sun, Saturn, Rahu lines. And so there'll be a lot of publicity around China, around Borneo, around the Philippines, down into Indonesia, and down into Australia, the western part of Australia. Finally, as we get to the eastern part of Australia, some panic, maybe even affecting Japan, so and possibly Korea. Maybe a change in government in South Korea, I'm not sure. And over here near New Zealand, we have Jupiter coming down over here. So there'll be some judicial action in New Zealand, maybe connected with the government. And we have these two lines, which are Mars and Venus lines. So maybe land disputes happening in that part of the world. So the Rahu lines are the ones I pay most attention to, the Rahu and Saturn lines, because those indicate breakups or restrictions. So this entire area is restricted. This entire area is restricted, or it feels like it's in prison. And political scandals here over Norway, Sweden, and down into Denmark, and down into North Africa, throughout the Central African Republic, down through South Africa, and political scandals also in Southeast Asia, especially around China, Philippines, and Australia, and over on the West Coast too, and even in Michigan and through Central America. So that's it for me for this week. I love you all. Thank you so much for watching. I wish you a great week, and take advantage of your opportunities. Try not to let the obstacles get in your way. And I wish you the best of luck over the coming week. God bless you all, and I love you all. And I mean that sincerely. Without you, none of this would be possible. Thank you very much, and have a great day.